We're here today with Dr. David Ashby, one of the founding members of Mustard Seed Wealth Management. And we're going to talk about what's been going on in the markets the last few weeks. I know these are scary times, and we just wanted to communicate with our client base and talk to y'all about some of the things we're thinking about and how to process what's been going on in the markets during this challenging time. And so David's had a lot of experience through times like this. Of course, we went through 2008, which was a similar time of uncertainty, and this time is different. But as far as the level of fear and panic that's going on in the markets, it's similar. And so, David, what do you think about how things are going right now, and what should clients be thinking about in times like this?
Sure. I've been surprised at the worldwide reaction to what started off as a small group of people infected with a virus in China, and I say small group, but it expanded to thousands of people. But to the credit of the Chinese, they fairly quickly contained this virus and kept it from spreading further in their country, at least based on the information that we're receiving from China. So from that, the virus started showing up at different points in the world, including the United States, including close to home here in Arkansas. But I have been surprised. The mortality rate is fairly low. I think maybe 1% or a little less than that. It's fairly targeted to certain groups. Most of us don't have a lot of risk, and I've been surprised by the overreaction of society in general. The shelves at stores being cleared out of disinfectants and paper towels and things. Stores closing. Entire sporting events canceled because of this. I think it's the right thing to do to try to shut this down, but I do think that there's been a worldwide overreaction to what's gone on here. Which has resulted in what I would describe as panic selling in the marketplace. Back around mid-February, somewhere around mid-February, we were at all-time market highs. The Dow was approaching 30,000, NASDAQ, S&P, world markets in general doing very well. And then this thing started to unravel, and now we're looking at extremely depressed prices in the equity markets in particular. Again, probably overreaction, somewhat fueled by media hype, and some of it's just our reaction to things that we don't understand or that we don't know about. We've lived through these things before. In 2000, it was the technology bubble. Stocks were overpriced. The NASDAQ fell by 75%. In 2008, it was the financial crisis. Asset prices got cut in half. Equity markets got cut in half. Here we're down by about a third so far in equity prices. And we get fearful because we don't know how much further it will fall, or we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
Anyway.
And I think one of the big things, at least in the last few days, that has been really worrisome to people is looking at Italy and what's going on there.
Right.
There's a lot. It's really interesting to look at the different ways that different governments and countries are responding to this thing. So Italy didn't seem to take it very seriously, and they've had, they're having to decide who to give ventilators to and who not.
Right.
So I think probably part of the panic is we're looking at that and thinking we're going to be there in a few weeks, which is possible. But I think with the efforts that we're taking, hopefully we won't get to that point, because I don't think we're underreacting to this for sure.
No.
I think we're certainly taking it seriously and canceling large gatherings, and that should hopefully keep situations like that from happening.
Stem the
here.
flow.
Yeah. Because you got South Korea. South Korea has managed it effectively.
Right.
And they're not as heavy-handed as China. China took a really heavy-handed approach, and they effectively contained it from what we know. But South Korea didn't take the heavy-handed approach. They took a very transparent approach, and they were able to effectively contain it as well.
Right.
And so their new case per day is actually going down. It's been decreasing for the last 10 days or so.
Right.
So they've effectively contained it. And they haven't really changed the way they act so much. I mean, they identify the cases really quickly. They quarantine those people. They separate them from society. So, and then UK's got yet another way of dealing with it they're saying, if you're young and healthy, just keep doing what you're doing. If you're in the risk, if you're in an elevated risk category, go home.
Yeah.
That's kind of their method
Yeah.
for taking care of it. And so we'll see how that turns
see what
out.
works.
But yeah, but we'll have
Yeah.
lots of different laboratories of experiment through this thing, and we'll know better what's going to happen here. And but hopefully, I think with what we're doing, I mean, I think we're taking it seriously, and so hopefully, things will get better, and we'll know a whole lot more. Every day we're going to learn more about how things are going to go, and so as the information comes out, that should hopefully it'll be better and better information, news that comes out.
Sure. Think about the quality of medical care in the United States.
Yeah.
People come from all over the world to get treatment here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So can we handle this disease? Look, there's been a concentration of cases in Washington, a lot of those at a single facility. But in general, can we contain this? And I think so. It's fearful when you see schools closing, businesses closing, people get scared. But on the other hand, if that will shut this virus down quickly and let us get past it, that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It's fine that we're taking these kind of measures.
And we're doing this mainly. We've talked about it before. We're doing this for the high risk people. I mean, if we didn't care about people that are vulnerable, we'd keep doing what we're just keep life going the way it was. And this is exacting a cost on society. But I'm glad to live in a society where we value those people.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's encouraging to me that we live in a country that still cares about the vulnerable.
Sure.
We're not just throwing them out.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's hopeful too.
Right.
And that kind of society, I think, can survive. So, I'm very hopeful and optimistic. Okay, what about just from a purely financial perspective now, thinking about it in terms of, is this time to panic or is this an opportunity?
This is an opportunity.
Okay.
This is definitely not a time to panic. And by the way, I've talked to 30 or 40 clients today, and I don't detect any panic out there. There are people certainly that are nervous, but not panicked about their portfolios. So let's think about what do we do in a case like this. The markets have corrected by a significant amount. Let's just say that a typical client is in a 60-40 portfolio, meaning that they've got 60% of their money in the stock market and 40% of their money in the bond market. Now stock prices have fallen sharply, so now they find themselves in a 50-50 portfolio. The 60% that was stocks is now declined, and now they're half and half. So what we would say is, look, let's stick to the game plan. That's very important. You've accepted a 60% level of risk, a 60% allocation to stocks. Let's move back toward that allocation of 60. Let's don't do that all at once, though. Let's don't take, if it's $100,000, let's don't take $10,000. If your portfolio is $100,000, let's not take $10,000 and dump it all at once into the stock market, because we could end up losing big the next day. The market could drop again. But let's start moving in increments back to that 60-40 portfolio. That way, if it does drop the next day, it's another buying opportunity. We still have some room to go. And we think that's the way to manage the risk. Don't panic, stick to your game plan, and move incrementally back to your targets. Let's don't do it on extremely volatile days. Today, the market dropped by a large amount. Let's don't do any rebalancing today. But tomorrow, if the markets are relatively stable, let's start inching back up to the 60-40 portfolio.
Right. Okay, so what about the guy that's in retirement? You're in drawdown. You're dependent on this money to live. You're taking your $4,000 or $5,000 a month or whatever it is that you're taking from your portfolio. How should that guy think about this?
We'd say think about it the same way. Stick to your game plan. If you're in retirement, you probably have, let's say, a 60-40 portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, or maybe a 50-50. So what's happened over the last month or so is stock prices have declined sharply, but bond prices have been relatively stable, and in many cases even gone up. So when the guy's pulling out $4,000 a month to live on, we're going to sell bonds in his portfolio. Again, going back to the old adage, buy low, sell high. Let's sell bonds while they're up in price to keep his $4,000 a month going. That way we don't have to liquidate any of those depressed price assets that are in the stock market. Hopefully by the time we get down to a reasonable level of bonds, stock market prices have rebounded, and then we can go back to selling stocks and bonds to keep his $4,000 a month going. So those are the kind of things that's managing the risk in the portfolio, and not causing the person to have to sell his assets at distressed prices.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for the discussion. I think hopefully clients will be encouraged by this. We want to be an encouragement. We know that there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and we recognize that. But we are being diligent. We're paying attention to what's going on. We want you guys to be confident in what we're telling you. And from all the evidence that we have and all the information that's out there, we feel like the best thing to do right now is certainly not to panic. It's to look at this more from a financial standpoint, at least, as an opportunity. Warren Buffett, one of his most famous quotes, I think, is, when others are fearful, it's time to be greedy, and when others are greedy, it's time to be fearful. Fear is certainly the predominant emotion that's winning right now. Yeah. And so I think it's time for us to be maybe not greedy, but courageous, I would say.
Yeah.
So, and historically, pretty much, every time in history when there's been times like this, courage has been rewarded.
Absolutely.
And so
markets come back.
And so we're going to encourage our clients to believe that, and to trust us, and to trust the history of the markets and the way they worked. And so we hope that this has been encouraging to you. And just want to encourage you, if you have questions, please call us. We're glad to talk with you. Shoot us an email, whatever means of communication would be best for you. We want to hear from you. We will be reaching out to you, and we want you to feel confident in our strategy and what we're doing. And so we thank you. We have some of the best clients in the world, and we're privileged to serve you guys in this way. And so please give us a call if you have questions, and be glad to serve you in any way that we can.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, John.